With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
Greetings, America. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. Glad to have you with me this hour of the program, the third hour. The phone number is 877-973-7425. If you want to be on the phones with me, I'm glad to have you. I got to talk to you about China, because there's a big story in the Wall Street Journal about what's going on there. Actually, there are a number of stories that I want to tie together for you. We are headed towards a serious crisis with China. And I think the folks in Washington are asleep at the switch. And by the way, I want to say something out of the gate here. I'm going to navigate around the Comer stuff because there's accusations about the Biden family and corruption happening right now. There's a press conference. I can't talk and listen to that at the same time. And I want to, if you're going to just have to forgive me on this one, and I want to be upfront with you. I'm ignoring, for the sake of this argument, the Biden ties to China, not because I don't think they're real, but because I think this issue, this particular issue, is larger than Joe Biden. And if we make it about Biden's responses because he and his family are indebted to China, we'll miss a bigger issue, and that is, on a bipartisan basis, American thought leaders in Washington, Republican and Democrat alike, have largely been asleep at the switch with what is going on in China. And I need to go in the Wayback Machine to when I was a kid. Hong Kong was a British colony and then a British protectorate. Hong Kong was part of Great Britain. The Thatcher administration, regime, the Margaret Thatcher's prime minister, her premiership, she decided to give Hong Kong back to China and lived to regret it. In fact, said more than once, and I was actually in the room with her when she said it once, that she realized it was a mistake. The thinking of the British at the time was that we give Hong Kong back to the Chinese, they make agreements with us to protect the domestic sovereignty of Hong Kong, treat it as an extraterritorial possession of China, allow it to be self-governing and autonomous. And the British believed that the values of Hong Kong would soak into Chinese culture. What soaked into Chinese culture was the money-making mentality of a lot of people who lived in Hong Kong, but the democratic structures that the British left behind did not. And ultimately, the Chinese have consumed Hong Kong and got rid of all of its agreements with Great Britain over time and dared Great Britain to protest. So, I mean, what can you do? You can't do anything. You've given it back to China. You're not going to get it back. And Margaret Thatcher saw later in life that she had miscalculated on that front. American leaders, regimes, however you want to say it, Democrat and Republican alike, have miscalculated on China for a long time. And this goes back to George H.W. Bush, who had been the ambassador to China. And he saw the Chinese make great progress after Mao. And he saw the Chinese during the Cold War as a fairly reliable bulwark against Russia, the Soviet Union. I intentionally do not say ally because they were not really an ally against the Soviets, although they hated the Soviets. And the United States could work with China. But these days are not those days, and the American mentality, including that of Henry Kissinger, who for a long time viewed the Chinese as people we can do business with, this isn't the same. And the thought leaders we have, in large part, are the thought leaders we have who came from that Henry Kissinger, George H.W. Bush, Richard Nixon mentality that these are people we can do business with. The Chinese don't want to do business with us anymore. They want to crush us. Wall Street Journal has a very important story today. China and Cuba have reached a secret agreement for China to establish an electronic eavesdropping facility on the island in a brash new geopolitical challenge by Beijing to the United States, according to U.S. officials familiar with highly classified intelligence. An eavesdropping facility in Cuba, roughly 100 miles from Florida, would allow Chinese intelligence services to scoop up electronic communications throughout the southeastern United States, where many military bases are located, and monitor U.S. ship traffic. Officials familiar with the matter said the Chinese have agreed to pay cash-strapped Cuba several $billions to allow it to build the eavesdropping station, and that the two countries have reached an agreement in principle. The revelation about the planned site has sparked alarm within the Biden administration because of Cuba's proximity to the U.S. mainland. Washington regards Beijing as its most significant economic and military rival. A Chinese base with advanced military and intelligence capabilities in the U.S. backyard could be an unprecedented new threat. Duh, you think? By the way, it's been the Biden regime and the Obama regime that tried to make kissy face with Cuba. U.S. officials described the intelligence on the planned Cuba site. They said it would include signals intelligence, known as espionage world as SIGINT, which includes monitoring the range of communications, including emails, phone calls, satellite transmissions. Of course, this is real and bad. We're headed back to another Cuban Missile Crisis, and Joe Biden doesn't have the wherewithal to fight it. Josh Rogan, the Washington Post, has a piece up. It's an opinion piece. The Biden administration is trying to reduce tensions with China and put a floor under the relationship. Although China's leaders profess to want the same end, their actions tell a different story. The gap between what China says and does is widening. The Biden team is busily engaging with Chinese government officials in pursuit of follow-up meetings between Joe Biden and Xi Jinping after their summit in Indonesia. The goal, as National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said on Sunday, is to manage the competition responsibly to ensure that competition does not become conflict. But there are mounting signs that China's leaders are uninterested in improving relationships and might benefit in ramping up the tensions. In a sophisticated, if not convincing speech, China's defense minister, General Li Shangfu, attacked the United States, which he repeatedly called some country, as the source of all the world's ills. Lee is under U.S. sanction. Lee's presentation to Asian countries of China as a benign, benevolent power is undermined by his country's actions in the region. Some Asian leaders are beginning to bristle under China trying to become dominant. Y'all don't need to read more of this for you to understand the Chinese want a war. The Chinese are trying to become the world's sole superpower. The Chinese believe we are easy pickings, and who can blame them? The Chinese are sending their kids to school to learn how to build aircraft carriers. We're sending our kids to school to learn how to be drag queens. And there is a sense, there's a real sense by our political elite in Washington that our days are over. Look at our debt. Look at our infrastructure. Look at our divisions. And they would be right on that. It's a problem. We've got to figure out a way to overcome it. And we could have real leadership in Washington, D.C. do that. The problem is, I mean, look at who the Democrats offer up. They offer up Joe Biden. They offer up Kamala Harris. They offer up Gavin Newsom. None of them are going to be tough on China. You know, and we forget something, too. For all of the talk about Russia interfering in the 2016 election to get Donald Trump elected, the Chinese literally interfered in the Canadian election to get Justin Trudeau reelected, and the Canadian government has been blocking investigations into what happened. The Chinese interfered in the election of our northern neighbor and a chief American ally. It would not surprise me at all if we had an incident with China and Justin Trudeau sided with the Chinese. The man got reelected because of Chinese. We need a unified front of this country, and the reality is the majority of Democrats and Republicans alike understand China is not our friend, and we should stop treating China as our friend. You know, in the Cold War, we didn't treat the Soviet Union as a business partner. We didn't treat the Soviet Union as a trading partner. We didn't treat the Soviet Union as some sort of benign force that might rival us. We treated them as an enemy. We treated them as an evil empire. The Chinese are running concentration camps against their own citizens, and the Biden administration and even some Republicans want to give them a head pat and say, "Attaboy, we love doing business with you." The Chinese don't want to do business with us. China's share of U.S. good imports has fallen to the lowest since 2006. In April, U.S. businesses brought in more cars, cell phones, and industrial supplies. Our imports from China have gone up. Our exports to China have gone down. You know, we got to diversify our manufacturing, and companies, even Apple, are trying to diversify. A lot of them moved to Taiwan, and they realize we can't stay in Taiwan. They're going to get invaded. We as a nation, I don't care about your politics right now. We as a nation of Americans are going to have to confront China. We can do it strategically. But if we want to confront China, we have to be willing to get our hands dirty. During the Cold War, we were willing to work with nefarious partners around the world, not nice regimes, but they were on our side, not the Soviet side. And together, we were able to isolate the Soviet Union, and we were able to win that Cold War. China is trying to do this in Asia against us. The problem is these Asian countries, many of them are mildly or fully democratic, know what will come with China being in charge, and they would rather be on our side. But we've got this 80-year-old decrepit dementia patient as president of the United States who can't stay awake long enough to build the alliances we need. Someone has got to lead the world on this. It's got to be the United States. We cannot let our sleeping giant fall back asleep because the Chinese, the moment we fall asleep, want to take over the world. We've got to build the alliances. We have the capability of building the alliances. We could build an economic global alliance against China that ultimately pushes us to the lead again and our allies without a hot war breaking out against China. We could do it. It is possible. We should engage in ally shipping our businesses abroad, find allies and give them our businesses and production lines, create jobs in their countries. We could mobilize the economic forces of the free world against China and beat China, but we have too many people in this country who are too busy hating on each other and thinking China is better. Now, on the right, there's an entire movement of reactionaries on the right who make kissy face with China because of the Chinese social controls. Oh, they don't have drag queens in China. We should love China. On the left, there are all sorts of people who love China while lecturing us on human rights. The sane, common sense, normal Americans of the middle class, the upper income and poor, who do not like dictatorial despots, we need to be on the same page. The Chinese are gunning for us, and we need to respond. And the Biden administration is not mounting an aggressive, capable response that makes the Chinese second guess themselves. We need new leadership. And I don't think Gavin Newsom on the Democratic side is any of the ones capable of saber rattling with China. We need another Reagan. That's going to come from the right. Boll & Branch uses the finest 100% organic cotton from family farms to your family home. They've got a natural, unmatched softness, and they get softer with every wash. Those are the highlights that Boll & Branch wants me to tell you about. Let me tell you about my experience as a longtime customer. Every single room in our house has Boll & Branch sheets. Why? Because they don't pill up over time. Some that they get a little like pill of whatever they call it, and they get rough. They don't. They get softer every single wash, and they last. They don't wear out. You don't have fraying threads. They just are fantastic, and they really, really do get softer the more you wash them, and they hold up over time. We love them in our house. They've got the perfect weight. They feel kind of snuggly, but you don't get hot in the summertime under them, but you stay warm in the wintertime. It's perfect. I love these sheets. Get 15% off your first order of Boll & Branch sheets when you use promo code ERICK, ERICK, at bollandbranch.com. That's Boll & Branch, BOLLAND branch.com. The promo code is ERICK. Exclusions apply. See site for details. You will love these sheets as much as everybody in my family does. We got them on all 5 beds in the house. You can too. Greetings, America. The phone number is 877-973-7425. I want to talk very briefly about the Tucker Carlson video. Apparently, Fox News saying he's in breach of contract for trying to do Tucker on Twitter as some sort of video show. There's a large problem, though. Most of you probably do not know about it, actually. And that's one of the problems. One of the problems that we run into in this country these days are the people who are always online who are convinced that everyone else must be as well. And they pay attention to these things online. Tucker Carlson did a video. It got like 1770, I don't know, some outrageous number of views. What I find really interesting about it is nobody's talking about what he said, what the content was. They're talking about the number of views. And the only people who are talking about the number of views and not the content are the people who are on Twitter. Most Americans aren't on Twitter. So it has some enormous number of views, but it doesn't have any buzz for the content. Nobody's talking about it. Now, there's a danger here, to be fair, that talk radio audiences are pretty big. Rush Limbaugh back in the day had 15 million radio listeners. And there was never a lot of buzz in the media about what Rush Limbaugh said, but he had 15 million listeners. So people were listening even if they weren't talking about it. But what's notable about Tucker Carlson is when he was on Fox, how many people talked about what Tucker Carlson said on Fox. And the clips shared on social media about what Tucker said on Fox. And none of that's happening here. And this isn't to criticize him or disparage him. It's to say this is different. And 70 million views of a 10-minute video on Twitter is an enormous number, but how do they count it? Is it you watch 35 seconds, that's considered a view? Because you don't have to watch all 10 minutes to be considered a view. It's only a number of seconds that are used to see how many views. And some people watched just to see what he was doing, and they tuned out. What's notable is the lack of buzz. And that, I think, is something that's going to have to be accounted for if you're putting a video on Twitter, but no one off Twitter is even talking about it or knows it exists. Did it happen? And thus far, no. But Tucker, I suspect, more than most, will find a way to overcome that and find a way to build buzz. It's just very interesting how quiet it is. Now, those of you in New England who are listening to the program, WICC, I wish I had a giant Eden Pure thunderstorm to take all that smoke out of your air, but we've got it down here now. It is smoky here, but not nearly like it is up there. Nothing. I can see my clouds here, just haze on the horizon. The Eden Pure thunderstorm, though, can help those of you dealing with smoke odors or pet odors or litter box odors. It pulls particulate out of the air. It traps them on electrostatic plates you wipe out on occasion. You just wipe it out. You don't have to buy a filter package, and it really does eliminate odors and does a great job of it. You can get 3 of them for less than $200 at EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERICK, ERICK. You go to EdenPureDeals.com. You see on the front page of the site a discount code box for your radio show host, and you put in my name, ERICK, ERICK. You can get 3 Eden Pure Thunderstorms for less than $200. One for upstairs, one for downstairs, one for your basement or your travel bag, your RV, wherever you need it, it works. I was even in a hotel last week that used them. EdenPureDeals.com is the website. The discount code is ERICK, ERICK. Get 3 Eden Pure Thunderstorms, less than $200. Wipe out odors, trap dust and pollen, and more. Clean the air in your house. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERICK, ERICK. Okay, can I just lightheartedly, and you not take offense at it, just lightly note, Pat Robertson has died at 93 and timed it probably for the start of hurricane season. I don't mean that critically. I love Pat Robertson. And Pat Robertson, I grew up watching him at my grandmother's house, but there's a big hurricane and it went somewhere. Pat would sometimes say these people they provoke God's fury and start a hurricane season. Pat Robertson has died at 93. God bless him and his family. Prayers to them. He was a reliable leader of the cultural evangelical right during the 1980s, formed the Christian Coalition. The man was a force to be reckoned with. And while I didn't always agree with things he said, particularly later in life, as a kid, I grew to appreciate his commentary on the 700 Club over time, and his founding of Regents University and watching out for that great university as it grew. So prayers for his family, and just what a presence, what a force to be reckoned with over time. They don't make people like that much anymore. And anyway, it was what he did with the 700 Club over time was super impressive. I remember watching that as a kid, and he just was around for so long. Now I gotta move on. I want to talk about the Instagram story, and I need to talk. Okay, you know what? I am going to talk about the Instagram story. I want to leave names out of it, although many of you will, because and he said I can talk about it, but I don't want to bring him into it. So I want to make you aware of a situation that happened to us here, and it's really not about me. It's about one of my employees who handles all my digital stuff. He was awakened one morning around 6 a.m. to someone beating on his front door, and it was a neighbor down the street. His Facebook account had been hacked, and explicit child pornography was on his Facebook page. To Facebook's credit, they responded pretty aggressively. He was shut out of the system, had to redo his accounts and get back in, but it was vile stuff, and I didn't see it. Other people saw it, but it was explicitly a hack. He didn't have two-factor authentication on his account at the time. Does now, and it was very explicit stuff, awful stuff. The Wall Street Journal did a story yesterday, and I didn't have time to get to it, that on Instagram, which is part of Facebook's platform, or Meta is now the company, child predators have been sharing pictures of scantily clad kids. There were all sorts of hashtags and threads linked to child pornography and the ability to connect them together to be able to share information. And, Facebook is remarkable in that if you show a woman's boob on Instagram, it immediately can detect it and scrub it. You can't show pornography. You can't show nakedness on Instagram. It can detect it very quickly and wipe it out, but it does not work for detecting scantily clad children and the connections of pedophiles who have figured out how to use Facebook and Instagram to exchange notes, information, tips on trading information and sharing child porn and gateways to child porn, such as, one of the hashtags, just so you understand what I'm talking about, is slutty child. That was one of the hashtags, and Instagram wasn't blocking it until the Wall Street Journal raised the alarm. Good for the Wall Street Journal raising the alarm. And I realize this is hard stuff to do, but here's the problem. Instagram, this is not a attack on Facebook and Instagram. It is someone taking their strength and using it against them. What I mean by that is, if you have some sort of niche, or as the elite would say, niche interest, the Facebook, particularly the Instagram algorithm, is brilliant at connecting you to others who share the same niche, obscure interest. Now, I will give you a personal example. As you know, I like to cook. And for a while, I was cooking a lot of stuff in cast iron skillets on the grill and off the grill, whether it was searing steaks or just doing a meal, but it was on the grill, but it was in a cast iron skillet. And the number of handmade cast iron skillet manufacturers in America, I had no idea. And I started getting incredibly specific advertisements, not for cooking ware, but specifically for handmade cast iron skillets and reclaimed ancestral cast iron skillets. It was that precise, the algorithm. And it knew it because of pictures I was posting on Instagram and comments I was leaving. And it was so precise. There is a company that goes through essentially salvage bins and torn down old houses and the like, and finds 100-year-old cast iron and reclaims it, reseasons it, and resells it. If you want the old school stuff. And it was remarkable. I had no idea this stuff existed. But that was the niche. I make a lot of sliders. I use King's Hawaiian rolls, and you slice off the tops, and you can put different meats and stuff in, bake them in the oven for a little while. The number of recipes I get from other people doing the same thing in like the suggestions is incredible. Friend of mine is gay. And at the time, I did not know he was gay. And the reason that I discovered he was gay was because in my suggestions occasionally there would be very athletically fit men in workouts. Now, I follow a lot of CrossFitters and was getting this, but this was a little bit more suggestive than that. And when you look, it'll tell you why you're getting these things. And it says, well, some of your friends are following this stuff. And it turns out this was my friend. And at the time, I didn't know he was gay. It's not that he was hiding it. I just didn't know he was gay. And we're still friends, but now I have adjusted my algorithms to not see that stuff. But it's that very specific. It curates that well. It does such a brilliant job. And the problem for Facebook and Instagram is that the child predators of America know it and took advantage of it. And so the side story, your children, my kids have Instagram accounts. We monitor the accounts. They understand. You know, when my kids were young, before we started giving them electronic devices and they started asking for them, I was very specific with them. Now, this isn't everybody's cup of tea, but I was very specific with them when they were young. We didn't want them to have electronic devices at the time because the devil will find you online. You can accuse it of being a modified Sackbilly. But I tell them the devil will find you online. And as they got older, I explored that a little more with them. It wasn't just that the devil will find you online. What I mean by that is there are a lot of bad people online and bad things online and a lot of temptations online. And when no one's looking, you could say, well, I'll just click this one time. It's like Brother Billy. He's on the balcony at the Primitive Baptist Church in Troy, Alabama. And Brother Billy went downstairs. He had to go collect the offering. And as he got downstairs, Sister Susie was upstairs and she was leaning over singing, and she fell off the balcony. She was hanging on by two arms. Had her dress up there, and you had all the men downstairs, and the preacher said, if anybody looks up Sister Susie's dress to see what's there, God will strike them blind. Brother Billy, holding the offering plate, put one hand over one eye and looked up and said, I'll risk one eye. Temptation will get you online. Nobody's looking, you'll risk an eye. Try to explain to my kids these things. The devil will find you online. Your temptations will find you online. Bad people will find you online. Bad people with demented, deviant desires use the internet better than the rest of us. I've mentioned that John Mulaney comedy skit on Netflix. One of his lines is talking about Venmo, and he says, you do understand that Venmo is for people who buy drugs. I do not understand how you non-drug dealing civilians use Venmo and display your purchases online when Venmo is for those of us who wish to buy drugs anonymously and have no one know. I mean, that's what it is. They will, your temptations will search you out online and you can give in to them. And the people who are in the most deviant desires, they use the online anonymity to do it, and they took advantage of the Facebook, Instagram algorithms, and Facebook and Instagram haven't been able to catch up to it as quickly as they should. And the Wall Street Journal has expedited their requirements to get up to it because the Wall Street Journal found all the deviants online using the Instagram algorithms to connect themselves to other deviants to share scantily clad pictures of young girls and then direct message each other other useful information to engage in child pornography. The devil will find you online. Sometimes the devil himself is controlling the account. The moral of the story here is I myself, with 2 children, have Instagram accounts, and you, who probably have kids who are on or headed towards using social media, you got to be vigilant. And you got to tell your kids, the devil will find you online. And when they laugh at you and say, well, I don't believe in the devil, or you don't believe in the devil, or we're atheists, say, explain to them what you mean. There are bad things online. And in your room at night when no one's looking, you can find those bad things. And if you're not careful, those bad things will come looking for you. And some of those bad things actually mean you real harm. Some of them are harmful and you don't even know it. The devil's going to find you online. And the Wall Street Journal has exposed the extent to the devilishness of these perverts online doing these things. And again, this is not to blast Meta. Meta has just this amazing algorithm. It really does connect people. The thing that I love about the algorithm is that I really don't like mass manufactured things. So this is if I have one serious level of snobbery in my life, and it's not really snobbery, it's just when I was a kid, you know, every kid goes through this, I think, as a kid. Where do you buy your clothes? Walmart, JCPenney, wherever. And you want to, as a kid, have your distinct taste. And I love the fact that online, particularly because of Instagram, I have found all sorts of unique, smaller clothing manufacturers that I really like. Now, I've got my Under Armour polo shirt on right now, but Holderness and Bourne, the great golf apparel maker, I've discovered I love their shirts. Rome, the athletic apparel, my pants, I'm wearing their shorts, I'm wearing their underwear, I'm wearing their socks. I love that company. I found them because of Instagram. Mizzen in Maine, all sorts of great clothing manufacturers. And Smithy, the cast iron manufacturer, made in the great cooking stuff, skillets, pots, knives. Found them all through the Instagram algorithm. A small batch curated wonderful clothes and gear and kitchen equipment and stuff. I love it. But the downside is that the pedophiles of America take advantage of the algorithm as well, and it works just as good for them as it does for the rest of us. And so you must be careful and tell your children, the devil will find you online. They must be careful, and you must be careful for them, because your kids really can't comprehend the depravities of the world, or they shouldn't. You should at least try to protect your kids from the depravity of the world such that they don't understand or appreciate how bad it is out there. You do. You should protect your kids from it, and this is another reminder. You've got to protect your kids online, whether they want the help or not, whether they think they need the help or not, whether they find you a nuisance or not, because, say it with me, folks, the devil will find you online. Now, I want you to go find Americans for Prosperity online. They're a good group. Americans for Prosperity are conservative activists who fight for limited government and liberty across the country. They fight for freedom. They fight for small government. They fight for school choice. They fight for the causes you care about. And they want you as an activist. They will train you as an activist. They have chapters around the country in more than 30 states. They're building chapters in the states where they don't have an organization. You might be able to help them if there's not one in your state. Reach out to them. AmericansForProsperity.org/Eric. AmericansForProsperity.org/ERICK. Really a great group. I've been affiliated with Americans for Prosperity since the early 2000s. They really helped give voice to the Tea Party movement. In fact, they were so effective at helping the Tea Party movement grow that liberals attacked the Tea Party movement and claimed it was just a front for Americans for Prosperity. Not true. They just recognized conservatives were growing and they wanted to help them become better activists. That's what they do. They make you a better activist. AmericansForProsperity.org/ERICK. Go check them out. Tell them I sent you, become a member of your local chapter, or volunteer to help them start a chapter in your state. If your state doesn't have one, they'll teach you how to be the best conservative activist you can be. AmericansForProsperity.org/ERICK. All right, I gotta share a story. Some of you are gonna think it's a snotty story about my life, but I do just have to share this with you. So 3 weeks ago on radio, I was complaining that the greatest challenge of having a teenager is the lack of hot water in your house. So my daughter has not cut her hair since I think she was 11 years old. She trims it, keeps split ends out. She has hair down to her butt. When she was, I guess, 10, she cut her hair and didn't like it and swore she'd never do it again. And she, to this day, has not. Long hair. And wipes out the water in her house. So I was mentioning this already about 3 weeks ago, and I got a text from a friend who said the president of Renai Water Heaters was trying to get in touch with me. And then the assistant program director at my flagship station, WSB, came in and said, hey, the president of Renai Water Heaters is looking for you. Then I got another text from another friend. Hey, the president of Renai Water Heaters is looking for you. Now, this is a big deal for me because when I was a kid, my dad listened to Paul Harvey, and Paul Harvey advertised for Renai Water Heaters. Forever hot water, and he loved them. I mean, you just got the sense that if Paul Harvey swore it was good, it had to be good. And so I just, growing up, I always said, if I ever build a house, I'm going to have a Renai water heater because Paul Harvey liked it. Well, so President Renai Water Heater is like, we love to put one in your house. Like, I don't have the money to put a water. We just replaced an electric water heater in our house like 3 weeks before this. It's like, we will take care of it. So I want to thank, this is not an ad, but they put it in complimentary, and I should thank them for it. I will say this, like, we've only had it for a week now, and I can already see, like, you can go in on my power company's website and monitor your home electric usage, and our electric bill is already, I mean, we're looking at like $100 a month in less of a power bill by not having electric water heaters in the house. But I'm impressed. I got to say this, though, y'all. I'm now at the point where I've got 2 teenagers. And the things in life that you never think you have to confront or deal with, like, for example, hot water in our house. And now we've got a new problem, is that my wife and daughter and son last night all decided to get in the shower, the same separate showers. We got 3 bathrooms. So we had daughter in one, wife in the other, and son in the third. And they're all like, oh my gosh, the water pressure in the house sucks. It's like, no, you've never been able to take a shower at the same time. And now you're never going to run out of hot water. And you all decided to do it at once. And it's nobody's fault but your own. But man, and now driving and insurance. Do you all know the cost of insurance for having a teenager drive? Particularly a boy. I'm starting to run the numbers. I may have to go flip burgers at McDonald's and get another job to afford the insurance of having a 16-year-old, and he's only 14 now. I got a year and some to go and got to start stockpiling cash on insurance, automobile insurance. It's absurd for a boy, and it's not great for a girl, but she's got good grades, and it's way better for her than a boy. All this stuff about women don't make as much money as men. Do you know how much money you save on your insurance, women? Do you have any idea on your car insurance how much money you're saving? It offsets that paycheck. Let me tell you, I'm running the numbers right now on my kid. All of these things you never have to think about when you're not a parent, or when your kids are little, or when they're out of the house. But right now, here in the teenage years, I'm having nightmares, and my son is convinced I'm buying him a Mustang. Like, there's no way in hell I'm buying a 16-year-old boy a Mustang. His mother's egging him on, Miss, I got a Harley. I'm like, no, we're buying him like a 1980 F-150 pickup truck. He's going to learn trade school automobile repair in the process. I don't think they're going to go for that with him. It's not going to be a Mustang. Good Lord.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.